Hey everybody, it's Jody. Thinking today about being real and what that means when you understand authenticity and you start um, uncovering limiting beliefs that have kept you stuck for a long time. When you can uncover those limiting beliefs in yourself and you now have to decide what to do with them, like when you realize as a kid that Santa isn't real, you have to decide for yourself. Oh, by the way, if that's a shocker to somebody, I'm really sorry that I popped that bubble. But that's the kind of thing I'm thinking about today. Like when something you've held on to forever is proven to be not true, what do you do? Or when a belief or a thought you've had, because a belief is just a thought you think over and over and over again, right? When that gets revealed as maybe not the truth, or new information is added so that you have to make a decision about whether you are now going to learn and grow and expand and get out of your comfort zone, or whether you want to retreat back into what you perceive to be safety. This is what it means to be real. It's not always sunshine and lollipops. Being real means stepping into tough situations, having tough and fierce and crucial conversations, and in my case, doing my best to not be a jerk about it. So I've struggled for a long time in having an opinion about something without um, taking a stand. Or no, that's not the right word. Without taking a position, I'm going to say. I can take a stand for something, but in my experience, taking a stand for something would mean violating somebody else's opportunity to have their own position or their own opinion. I have a hair sticking up right there. That's bothering me somewhere. Okay. Um, so I have tended to play the middle more than I've taken a side. And I still believe that there's more conversation to be had in the middle. And there will come a point at which shining the light on things exposes what's wrong and bad and not working anymore. And that sounds so judgmental. And I'm working really hard to not be judgmental and being observational and then selecting. So I'm reminded of this book, How the Mighty Fall and Why Some Companies Never Give In by Jim Collins. And it's really important that we start looking at some of these 5 characteristics that he says, or stages that he talks about, when companies or even individuals start to decline. You can hide untruths for a long time, but like a structural integrity, eventually things will break. And like a bridge that has a weak part in it, it'll stand up for a long time. But as we learned in Minneapolis when the I-35 bridge fell, it didn't happen the day it fell. It was happening over time. And I think that's structural integrity, but it's also moral integrity. I watched a show a long time ago about, I wish I could remember the name of it. It was just a half-hour show on some cable network about the Bernie Madoff scandal and how one of the guys who got caught in that scandal said the first time he was asked to do something illegal, it was really hard for him because it went against his values and his morals. But he was in fear of not doing it, in fear of losing his job or getting in trouble or whatever. So he did the wrong thing, and it killed him at the beginning. But he said over time it got easier and easier and easier. And eventually he sort of lost his moral compass. And I think that's what can happen in situations. And that's what the book talks about. It says in How the Mighty Fall, Jim Collins confronts the questions: how do the mighty fall? Can decline be detected early and avoided? How far can a company fall before the path toward doom becomes inevitable and unshakable? How can companies reverse course? So companies, if you look at companies or organizations, they're not human. They're run by humans. But if we look at a company as a human, there has to be a person at the head and a person that can make those distinctions, I think. So he says here, Collins' research project, more than 4 years in duration, uncovered 5 stepwise stages of decline. Number 1 is hubris, born of success. What got us here is going to continue to get us there, and we gain hubris, which is, I'm going to define it here. Hubris is defined as excessive pride that brings down a hero, or alternatively, outrageous arrogance that inflicts suffering upon the innocent. So that happens when success takes over, when we people start believing that they are the reason for the success. The second stage is undisciplined pursuit of more. The third is denial of risk and peril. The fourth is grasping for salvation. And the fifth is capitulation to irrelevance or death. And it says here, by understanding these stages of decline, leaders can substantially reduce their chances of falling all the way to the bottom. So companies can, he says, stumble badly and recover. But it sounds like you need to be not in the last stage of that in order for recovery to happen. And what I'm noticing from COVID, as we've been shut down, we've had a lot of things happening. A lot of things have happened in the world in these last 5 months. And it's very fascinating to take a look at this and try to be a little bit objective about it. And if we're able to be objective about it, if I'm able to be objective about it, I have to speak. I have to be real about it. And there is, according to my moral compass, right and wrong. There are things that are wrong that happen when people get to that first stage, which is hubris born of success, when arrogance takes over, when love is lost in the pursuit of holding people back because of fear. I have a course I wrote, and there's a whole section on this in the course I wrote, which is what happens to you when fear overtakes love. And I'm going to stop being scared to talk about love in the workplace. We need to talk about love in the workplace, because if we don't, fear is going to take over. And we know the difference if we're really honest. And if we get real with ourselves, we know the difference between being in fear and allowing love to lead. And that needs, in my opinion, needs to be something we talk about. I need to. Here's what I know, and this is from my course, Real Impact, and it's one whole page. When fear overtakes love in our relationships, and I'll maybe put this in the chat so you can see it. When we fear looking weak, then we talk or act tough. When we fear looking weak, then we talk or act tough. When we fear feeling guilty, then we blame others. When we fear being judged, then we criticize. When we fear the truth, then we don't ask tough questions. We need to ask tough questions. When we fear our insecurities, then we pretend that we can't be hurt. When we fear people who are different, then we judge and label them. When we fear being hurt, then we ignore those who hurt us. When we fear words aren't working, then we get louder and or more forceful. When we fear feeling inferior, then we put others down. When we fear we don't know the answer, then we act as if we do. When we fear being wrong, then we turn everything into debates. And when we fear admitting we're human, then we act as though we're not. I can't stay silent about this anymore, because there needs to be a voice for love in communities, in workplaces, in families. And love is standing for the goodness in people, believing in the goodness in people, holding space for people to be their best, even when it's difficult, even when it's scary, even when there's no precedent for being your best at work. It's saying the things that need to be said because fear has kept us from saying them in the past. And here's my poster right up here, when you can do what you love in the service of people who love what you do, just imagine how workplaces are inspired. And we might not know how to have these conversations. We might not know how to call out the things that need to be called out. And if we don't know how, that's no reason not to do it. It's not easy. I had a conversation like this yesterday. It's not easy. It's not easy. But I can't not try. And that's what the Get Real Circle is about. It's going to be about more than that. We're going to have more of these conversations because we have to. And we will feel better about ourselves when we know we follow our hearts. And we know when we line up our heads, our hearts, and our guts, when we can be in that place of discernment, we will be much better leaders. We will stop leading out of force and fear, and we'll start standing for what we believe in our hearts and souls and our humanity. So watch for maybe a conversation about this book and maybe a book study about this book, because we're in desperate need of this right now. The world needs love. Love. Standing for what we do believe in instead of only always fighting against what we don't. Time is now, you guys. Get real. Get real. We're ready.